Good afternoon, Muttonistas. I'm in Phuket, Thailand, which probably doesn't relate to the video that you're about to watch. I made too much footage. The videos would be 2 hours long if I actually made them as whole videos in each location I visited. So I've broken them up into 20-25 minute chunks, maybe even less than that. So I hope you enjoy the video and we'll pick up the action wherever I happen to be at the time. But Muttonistas, what a great Asian tour this is. Enjoy the video. Okay, Muttonistas, day 3. My voice is going a bit. I do hope it holds out. Before we get to the first pub of the day, Nancy Whiskies, and it will be that late as usual, I thought, well, I haven't brought you a food segment yet on this tour. It's been quite awkward because I just haven't had the time. But I thought, well, I'm in New York, big Jewish population, how about a Jewish deli and one of those famous salt beef sandwiches? I do like them. I often have them in Britain when I'm on a tray, although they're from a package from a supermarket. So I'm hoping that this will be the real deal. I'm going to have to eat it quickly and then get to the pub.
Doing something right.
So we're not all having these sandwiches. We have a chicken noodle soup there, which I believe is a very traditional Jewish soup. Am I right?
Yeah.
Matzo balls?
Yeah, usually.
Okay. And to keep it brief, we have ordered the traditional pastrami sandwich, salted beef. They look absolutely enormous from what I can see, and we're supposed to add our own coleslaw and pickles. And that, Muttonistas, is fast service, and look at the quantity. It's a working man's lunch, that is. And half the restaurant seems to be on these. I'm going to add the pickles, the coleslaw, or is it sauerkraut? It looks like coleslaw, and some mustard that they have on the side. But I want to give you the natural flavours first. That is really good. I've not had a salt beef sandwich like this before. Usually it sort of comes in a package and you get a little slice of beef in there. Very, very juicy for what one would think might be a bit drier because it's been salted and a lot of the blood's come out of it. But yeah, on to a winner here. I'm going to have to get on with this, and I'll see you at Nancy Whiskies for the first pint of the day. Right, Muttonistas, pub number 1 of day 3, Nancy Whiskies. Late because of that exquisite sandwich, rye bread, juicy pastrami, pickles, sauerkraut and mustard. Great way to start the day. Anyway, not that many of you recommended this place, but the pub itself did reach out to me. Looks like there's a big crowd of Muttonistas inside and a rapturous welcome awaiting me as usual, and let's hope the pint's been drunk into form because I'm a bit thirsty. Hello everybody, hello.
Welcome. How are you today?
Hi, not too bad, thanks. Right, Muttonista's Nancy Whiskies. Quite a cosy small bar, some nice wooden fittings, and full of Muttonistas. So I hope the Guinness indeed has been drunk into full. For the first time on this trip, it's actually only a US 16-ounce pint. But given how much I've been drinking, that might be a bit of a godsend. Temperature feels reasonable, cold but not freezing cold. Let's hope this one's a good one. Slightly too bitter, but otherwise quite a nice pint, Muttonistas. I'd happily drink this, so I hope that by the time I do my Instagram review, who knows, it'll have been drunk further into form and I'll be able to award it an even higher status. But cheers to all Muttonistas, this is a good one, and yet again we're having a great time on a mutton meetup. So there we go, one lady, I think the manageress, working behind the bar on her own here. Hope she was expecting all this because, wow, it is rad. And I'm just looking around and I see pints of Guinness everywhere in here. That's what we like to see. And I'd say, actually, the pint has improved a bit since the initial slurp. And that is probably because of the taste of the meal that I had in my mouth. So the Instagram pint might well be even better, Muttonistas. Anyway, as far as we're concerned, I'm going to finish this and we're going to move on to the next venue, Fraunces Tavern, where we're going to try another independent. I'm excited about that because, as you know, Muttonistas, I said that I thought the best pint I'd have on this trip to the US was probably going to be an independent nitro.
I was thinking for a second that she was out of here.
Okay, Muttonistas, second stop on my third day in New York, Fraunces Tavern. A lot of you recommended it, and conveniently it's next to the final pub of the evening, or very close to the Dead Rabbit. Now here, I understand that they do serve an independent nitro, as I mentioned earlier. I think it's called Wolfhound or something like that. Very, very keen to try it because my last independent I tried in the States, it wasn't. In fact, two of them, they weren't nitrogenized. So I'm hoping this is going to be a creamer, Muttonistas.
Creamer, 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 creamer. We love you, man! We love you, man!
Hi everybody. Okay, Muttonistas, Fraunces Tavern, a building steeped in history. George Washington declared independence here, and I think there are 6 or 7 bars here. They are all stunningly appointed. I have to say I'm very, very impressed with this bar. Quite a heavy gathering of Muttonistas here, and rather than Guinness, I'm having an independent here. I'm having Wolfhound Stout, a nitro stout brewed locally. They only sell it in the New York area, and it comes in at 4.2%, so very, very sessionable. I believe the flavours are similar to Guinness, maybe a little more coffee, but you know Muttonistas, I'm a caffeine addict, so I don't mind that at all. But I suspect it's not going to be overly coffee heavy. As I walked in, I did talk to a lot of Muttonistas, and they quite liked it. You know, I think I'm going to like this as well. I love an independent. That is on the money, Muttonistas. That is a real creamer, that is. I do like that. Yes, a little more coffee, but they've got it right here. And I understand that a lot of American breweries can't nail the nitro. This is smooth and creamy. Look at the lacing around the side of the glass, important as ever. Good temperature as well. Okay, the extra coffee notes might put some of you off, but it doesn't put me off. I like it. Right, Muttonistas, as we come down to the end of the pint, it's been staying true, has the head, it's not broken up. Still very creamy. And I did forget to mention that both this pint, yes, this Wolfhound Stout, it's tied to the Porterhouse Brewery in Dublin, and the pub indeed is involved with that establishment as well. It's not a place I know a lot about, but it's something you can look up if you choose. They don't do Guinness here, by the way. I think they've had one keg of Guinness for an occasion once, so this is what you'll get here, and it seems to satisfy the customers. Anyway, Muttonistas, I'm going to drink this, get on with the important business of the Instagram reviews, and then move on to the last pub of the day, the Dead Rabbit. Right, Muttonistas, what a pleasant, creamy coffee stout that was, the Wolfhound Stout at Fraunces Tavern. Literally a couple of doors away out of the back of the pub, now at the Dead Rabbit. This is a pub that a lot of you have raved and raved and raved about. I've seen a couple of the pints taken outside. They really do look delicious and creamy. Some of you think this is the best pint in the city. Some of you I've met today have said I'm going to enjoy this. So let's go in and find out whether we really will. Okay, Muttonistas, on to the Dead Rabbit. An absolutely massive crowd of Muttonistas yet again. I do appreciate you all coming to see me, and I have to say, this does look like a beaut of a pint. Carefully poured, they took their time, the head is exactly the right size, spotless top, no bubbles, good temperature, everybody on it, no, nearly everybody on it here. What can go wrong? Muttonistas, I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to say the hallowed words here. Go on! That's not just good, that is really good. That is an absolute creamer. That is. One key reason why I'm giving this verdict is that it lacks the excessive bitterness that a lot of the pints I've had in New York here have had. I mean, I'm sure these pubs are doing their best, but they've got it right here. A good 20-ounce glass, good temperature, and I have to say, it's got a great, perfect balance that you'd expect with a good pint of Guinness. We'll see how the rest of the pint is, but if it's anything like this, and the second pint is anything like this, it's possible I'm here for a session. I mean, Muttonistas, this really is a beaut. I've got no hesitation in awarding it, certainly by American standards, the status of an absolute creamer. It means it would be a creamer in Britain and a very good pint in Ireland, so that is high praise indeed. And a lot of you have been writing to me, mainly on Instagram, telling me that I should expect absolute muck here. Not so. Yeah, I've had a few mucky pints, but I've had quite a lot of good ones as well. And the pint has stayed true towards the bottom. It's always very important. The head's held firm all the way down to the bottom of the glass. Correct amounts of seepage. And I think this is probably the best pint I've had in New York so far, although there are a couple of big hitters to come tomorrow. I'd also say, Muttonistas, that one thing that struck me in the US is the variability of the pints. They can be very, very variable. We just had two good ones on a row here. The coffee stout at the previous venue, the Fraunces Tavern, and this, which is, as I said, the best I've had so far. So they must be getting something right, or maybe our pub's getting something wrong. Guinness, as we know, very, very difficult drink to keep. A lot of technology has to go right. You've got to get everything spot on to get the perfect pint, and I can understand it's very hard, especially for pubs that don't sell that much of it. Anyway, they're shifting it out here. The Muttonistas are itching for my Instagram review, so I'm going to clock off for the day, and I'll see you for the final day at possibly a pub that might be better than this if your reviews are to be believed.
That's how creepy it is. That's how creepy it is.
Okay, Muttonistas, pub number 1 of my final day in New York, day 4, Hartley's. Moved over to Brooklyn, not so familiar with this part of New York, but I think I'm going to be familiarised with it pretty soon. For a lot of you, this is the best pub for me to go to in New York. I don't know. I had a really good one at the Deb Rabbit last night, so who knows, maybe this is better, maybe it isn't. Certainly being drunk into form. I mean, look at this crowd outside here, and I believe that's nothing compared to what I'm going to see when I do my walk in and go inside. So without further ado, Muttonistas, let's do just that. And some good looking pints coming out here.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Welcome, Jason.
Thank you.
We love
Thank
you.
Hi everybody. And of course, not to put any pressure on the barman who just poured it. So, Muttonistas, pretty decent looking pint. Back to 20-ounce glasses again, which obviously I prefer. And rather than a Guinness glass, their own branded glasses, Hartley's. I don't know if I'm supposed to split the H there or not, but I don't know if it's actually to the same level because my opening gulp is of a standard size. But now for the acid test. How is this good looking pint? And given it's been literally hammered into form here, I mean, I can hardly see anybody not drinking Guinness in here. It should be good. And of course the temperature's good. You know, Muttonistas, line lengths, cooling systems, very, very important parts of serving a good pint of Guinness. That's very good, actually. However, I can't say it's the best pint I've had in New York, but it's still so good, I'm going to call it an absolute quid. I think that is what the crowd wanted to hear, and of course I'm getting an honest review based on my American scale, which means it's obviously not as good as the top pints in Ireland. I don't think any of you expect that to be the case. Well, if the reception for my YouTube vlog is as good as this, God, they're going to go nuts when I do the Instagram review. Okay, Muttonistas, very, very attentive gathering of followers here, asking a lot of questions, the right questions, and I've been explaining where the best pints I've had so far have been in New York and in the US. Still, those two in Boston are my tops, and obviously here the place I went to last night, the Dead Rabbit, that was bang on form. But this is pretty good as well. The head actually staying firm to the bottom of the glass, very important. Temperature remaining good. A little bit of, what do you want to call it, lining, lacquering, stick, lacing, whatever you want to call it. Quite a bit of that, not a huge amount. And it's actually is tasting a little bit better as I get to the bottom of the glass. Still a little bit more bitterness than there should be, I have to say that, which probably sets apart Guinness in Ireland from anywhere else. Slight amount of bitterness is correct, but not, shall we say, something that's quite as bitter as this, although I've had some that have been massively more bitter on this tour. Okay, Muttonistas, I think the crowd here are itching for that Instagram review. I'm going to drain this pint, pack this camera away, get my phone out, and I will see you at the next venue, which I think is called the Kent Ale House. Right, Muttonistas, penultimate pub of the tour of New York. Second pint, or second pub of my final day in New York. We're at the Kent Ale House. I believe it's more of an English-themed pub than an Irish pub, but it doesn't mean that they can't produce a good pint of stout or porter here. A bigger pub than last time, and rather than people queuing and spilling out outside, they're actually sat here. But I think they've mainly come to see me. I'm not bragging or anything like that, but I think there is a bit more mutton fever in there. So let's go in, hopefully another warm welcome, and hopefully another great pint. Hi. Hello.
Sexy. I'm a little nervous.
Okay, Muttonistas, the Kent Ale House, my second pub of the day, as I mentioned. A massive crowd of Muttonistas in here. Pleased to report that they're mostly on the Guinness, I think about 75-80%. Now, the pint itself, the barman was a bit nervous, no need to be. Very, very nice sized head, if you can see that here. And when I showed you the photos at the bar, you can see it's a clean white head, no bubbles, which, as you know, is always a bad sign. The temperature, again, pretty decent, very slightly on the cold side, but that's okay. And, of course, a 20-ounce pint, and you know, Muttonistas, I much prefer that. The proof of the pudding, as always, is in the drinking, so time to make that assessment. That, Muttonistas, is very good. When I was given the reviews here, or read the reviews here, I wasn't expecting something as good as this. Maybe they've pulled all the stops out, maybe the other people in here have just drunk it into form so good, but it's an absolute creamer, this is. I am going to do a little food segment here as well, because they have something that you might have seen in Ireland called a spice bag or a spice box. So I'm going to try that here because I'm hungry, and I have been relying on pubs to feed me because this is madness. I get so little time in between pubs. Anyway, that's got everybody's juices going, so I'll see you when I'm a bit further down the pint. And Muttonistas, this pint is getting better and better and better. Clean head all the way down, bit of, shall we say, lacing on the side of the glass, and when I take these later sips in the pint, again, very important, head stays intact and there's a little bit of seepage and it doesn't rest on top of the head and break the head. Now, a Muttonista at the window, sporting the summer's hot fashion item, one of my t-shirts, gave me a gift. is giving me no less than a big box of caviar and blinis. Well, thank you very much, sir. You know who you are, and this is possibly over the top, but I'll do my best to tuck into it at some stage in my hotel. Thanks again. Caviar, wow, what a gift. Well, I'm so lucky to have such great followers. Anyway, we're going to have the spice bag now, so I can show you on the video what it's like with the end of this pint, and then we'll move on as usual to the Instagram segment, and I'll see you after that at the next pub.
Very cool.
So Muttonistas, a lot of you have been asking me how have I been enjoying the food here, feeding myself. Well, I've actually had to rely on pubs to feed me because the schedule is that brutal, that hectic. But I've tried something that you'll see more often in Ireland, a spice bag. I think we've got some sort of chicken goujons or tenders and some chips. We'll give this a try first, the chicken. And that has actually come with a British chip shop style curry sauce. Very nice. Takes me back to my childhood a little bit, and I know that is popular in Ireland. Now, I'm not going to say this is gourmet food, gourmet chips, but it is good for what it is. And actually this sort of very simple fried food with a bit of spice about it is actually a good match, a good pairing for Guinness. Yeah, as is the case here. I would say the Guinness is better without the spice butts, but it's not a bad combination. Guinness goes with so few things. Anyway, Muttonistas, onwards and upwards to the Rambling House in the Bronx, another part of New York I've not been to. This, by the way, I think is Williamsburg, not been here before either. So I'm exploring parts of New York I've never been to before, and one last pub and one last pint. Right, Muttonistas, final pub of my New York vlog, final pub of day 3. It's called the Rambling House and it's in the Bronx. I'd never been to the Bronx before this, but it's completely different to how I was expecting it to be. Gangster movies and all that sort of stuff. No, lots of Irish pubs, very leafy, Irish restaurants, you name it. And inside I can hear some traditional music. Does look like it's going to be a bit of a session here tonight, both musically and in terms of the alcohol consumption. Muttonistas, Rambling House. As I said outside, this neighbourhood, quite a surprise. Horseshoe bar, that's quite American, but otherwise very, very Irish to feel here. The staff are, well, either second or third generation Irish. The proprietor is Irish. When I look around the room, plenty of people on the Guinness, and it looks pretty good. I love the family atmosphere. It does remind me of what happens in on afternoons in Ireland, particularly rural Ireland. Anyway, on to the pint itself, and if you can hear music in the background, it is a trad session, something I love, and they look thankfully very happy for me to film them playing a bit earlier. Anyway, enough prattling about, let's give this a whirl. bloody hell, Muttonistas, it's another absolute creamer this is here. Wow, I was told that the pints in New York would be all bad. Okay, it's not as good as an absolute creamer in Ireland, but wow, what a pleasant surprise that was. Maybe they're all putting on fresh kegs and they've got everything fine-tuned to a T before I come here, and yeah, I can only judge what I get in front of me, but this is good stuff. Muttonistas. Some of you told me I was going to get served pints and mutt. Maybe after I leave the Irish centres in America, that might be the case, but well, fair play to the Rambling House who asked me to come over here, and they were confident in their product, and rightly so. Right, Muttonistas, some more geographical background and information here. The part of the Bronx this is in, it's the North Bronx, specifically Woodlawn. The South Bronx is, I think, where I get all those images in my head about shootouts and gangster movies, and it's probably not that bad anyway. Very, very Irish area, as I've stated previously. It's very close to an area called Yonkers, which is about as far out of New York City you can get to still sort of be in New York City. I believe here in Queens were the areas where the Irish immigrants landed a long time ago, and they've actually stayed here. Because sometimes when you get an immigrant community moving in somewhere, it changes. But here they kept true to their roots and true to serving a mighty fine pint. I'm talking off the pint. Very, very good this is. It stayed true right down to the bottom of the glass. Okay, just a tinge of bitterness. There should be a little bit of bitterness in the Guinness anyway. It's smooth and creamy. I don't know if this is the best one or not, although I have to say the Dead Rabbit was really good. I think that actually gets the nod over this, but it's not far away. It's definitely second. And I have to say, I'll also come back to this area if I come back to New York later in the tour or on another tour and investigate this very Irish part of New York. So, that's it for New York Muttonistas. Very, very successful trip in terms of meeting you all. So many people queuing up to see me. I love it. And I hope nobody missed out on actually meeting me. The next phase of the journey, it's a trip to Philadelphia by rail, and I'll be starting to cover the Club World Cup where City play their first game. I've heard the crowds are decent. Well, I don't know whether that's going to be the case for City, because the previous games have been into Miami and then something in Los Angeles. So Muttonistas, that's the end of the New York vlog. Probably my longest one, my longest stay in any city that I've planned to visit here in the US. And I might be back again if City get to the last four of the Club World Cup. I do hope that that happens, because I really want to investigate this very Irish area a little bit more thoroughly. I could make a vlog on its own about here. And Muttonistas, I hope that I even get another opportunity on another trip to come back here, and maybe earlier in the day sample what exactly they have to offer food-wise as well. So I'm going to wrap the vlog up here. 12 good pubs for you here, Muttonistas, but in the meantime I'll love you and leave you, and please remember to keep liking, keep sharing, keep subscribing, and most of all, don't forget, you can't beat a bit of mutton.